Today we're going to go game by game, matchup by matchup, identify the must-start players from each game, and then also talk about the game in general, talk about the players who could produce, talk about the matchup, the defenses, the game script, and everything else, how that matchup could affect your fantasy football team. But what you need to do right now is click that subscribe button. Tap it with the finger on your phone, click it with the mouse on the computer, whatever you need to do to get the job done. I help you out with the waiver wire every week. I help you out with setting your lineups. And I also help you get the information for your drafts. Also, if you have any questions for your lineup this week, drop it in this comment section here below. I'll get to them around Saturday night, probably somewhere around 10 to midnight Eastern time, maybe a little bit later when I work through those questions. But feel free to drop any start sit questions in the comment section. Feel free to answer questions, hit that like button, whatever you need to do. But let's get started. Let's look at the must starts, the sneaky starts, the everything starts from these matchups. We got the LA Rams at the Baltimore Ravens here with a 39.5 over under. Vegas is saying we got light to moderate scoring in this matchup with the projected point total. So saying that it could be a lower scoring game, but we could also break the mold. We see that happen from time to time, and both offenses can push the pace a little bit, but it can also be slowed down. I know I sound like I'm in the middle there, but really you got to look at things objectively here. So looking at our must start option, Kyren Williams, because he is still productive against tougher defenses. What happens in those matchups, say against the 49ers, say against the Browns, he gets used a good bit in the passing game. He gets a lot of those checkdowns. He gets a lot of those opportunities, and he can still be productive. He's used quite a bit. He's a good cog in the passing game, so expect him to get his opportunities in this matchup nonetheless. He's seeing 71.6 opportunity share in his last two games, 29.3 PPR points per game since he's been back. Puka Nacua is another option because he's getting targets. I think he's almost matchup proof because he gets targeted deep downfield and he gets plenty of volume. Run backs with the Ravens is pretty obvious. Zay Flowers, Odell Beckham if you're playing matchups with wide receivers, and then it's Gus Edwards or Keaton Mitchell. Keaton Mitchell, you know, the home run threat. You're just going to start him if your back's against the wall or if you want to take that gamble. Gus Edwards has been the known commodity to get the touches except for that last game. Coming out of a bye, we might be seeing something different. I do want to highlight that, so be on the lookout in this matchup. It could be kind of ugly with these running backs or different. Keaton Mitchell could be getting the touches. It could be going back to Gus with Keaton Mitchell being a home run hitter, but since they're coming back from bye, don't be surprised if there are some changes here. Now we're going from the Tampa Bay Buccaneers at the Atlanta Falcons here, and we got a 41 over under. So we're pushing to about a moderate point total. Usually it's considered high when it's pushing around the 50s, low when it's like 39 or lower. So moderate point total here with a tight spread. You can throw on Tampa Bay, and teams like to throw deep on them. So we should expect that from Atlanta, hopefully. And if that's true, look for Drake London to get some targets in this game. He's averaging 5 targets a game in his last 3 games. Expect him to get a little bit more. Expect him to get a decent ADOT. 14.3 ADOT in his last 3 matchups. That could be a little bit higher in this game. Look for him to push it downfield. Of course, Bijan Robinson. You're starting him no matter what because he's using a passing game. He's using a run game. He's pretty safe. There's been some moments due to the coaching staff, but he's pretty safe. The run backs, they're pretty easy here. You're starting Mike Evans, you're starting Chris Godwin, you're starting Rachaad White, and you're really not having many arguments about it unless you're stacked at wide receiver or somehow stacked at running back and you got those tough choices. But you're starting those guys. Drake London, this is a good matchup for him. Wide receivers typically hit against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Should expect him to get targets in this game. And if you're not willing to start him in a pass funnel matchup, then maybe you should have traded him weeks ago. Carolina Panthers at the New Orleans Saints. We got 37.5 over under. So we're pushing to a lighter projected point total here. Less opportunities to score points in this game. That could break. And I could see how it breaks is because the Panthers just lay up in this one and the Saints just start going off. However, we got quarterback issues on both sides of the ball. That could impact things. We also got a loose spread. So I can see why Vegas set that over under kind of low. So it could be a lower scoring game. But again, Alvin Kamara is going to be getting to work. Safe start. Same with Chris Olave. Run back pieces for the Panthers. I do not trust any Panthers in this matchup because of that Saints defense. Adam Thielen should be getting targets. He should be, but we've seen some targets go to Jonathan Mingo. So you may want to be looking at Mingo or shying away from this passing offense in general, depending on your situation, what you have on your roster. Chuba Hubbard is the guy to look at here in the run game. However, you're not trusting it. You know he's getting touches, and you're just leaning into the touches, but you do not know if you're going to get the production. But Alvin Kamara, of course. Chris Olave, of course. Chuba Hubbard. Adam Thielen. We got to pay attention to that. Detroit Lions at the Chicago Bears, 43.5 over-under. So we're pushing to a moderate implied point total. Still a little bit light, but higher for this year's NFL. Usually we're catching a lot of over-unders in the 30s. But Lions at the Bears here, kind of a tight spread to be surprised here. Amon-Ra St. Brown because, of course. Then you got the Monty versus Gibbs scenario, which a lot of you guys are probably just going to start Monty or Gibbs. Hope for the best. You can run on the Bears. Running backs score well on the Bears. So I look good on Monty and Gibbs here in the projections. Also, Sam Laporta because he's Sam Laporta, one of the top tight ends in the league. Run backs, DJ Moore, and you're not trusting it. You're not, but you know he's getting opportunities here. Foreman is back. It looks like he's practicing in full, so look for him to be back in this offense. Him or Roschon, we're questioning it, but Deontay Foreman was the guy we saw getting the touches before the injury, so that could continue to happen, and I really am scared of this backfield, but still I'm paying attention to it as well. Colts at the Bengals, 44 over-under with a tight spread. Moderate implied point total. We saw the Bengals be able to push the ball downfield a little bit. Colts can do that too. This one could be a messy one. This one could be very fun to watch. Michael Pittman, he's getting the touches. He's getting the targets. 13.7 targets per game. 38.3% target share. That's in his last four. 21.5 PPR. Josh Downs, he's been on the down as of late. But this could be a matchup where he gets propelled a little bit if this game script goes off the rocks. Zach Moss is getting touches, and you lean in the running backs who are getting touches, and you just pray for the best. Bengals are allowing 34.1 PPR points per game to wide receivers. That's very encouraging for Michael Pittman. That could lead to fantasy points to Josh Downs as well. So be on the lookout for this offense. Run backs, Jamar Chase, because he's Jamar Chase. He gets targets. T. Higgins has been hitting as well. Joe Mixon too. Just pretty much your studs. You're starting your studs and you're rolling with it. I could see people having lineup conflicts with T. Higgins, but still, this matchup could lend faithfully to both wide receivers. Jaguars at the Browns, 30.5 over-under. Does not look great. Vegas is looking at the quarterback issues here on the Jaguars and the Browns and saying, hey, this could be ugly. This one could break, but it could be very ugly. It could be very ugly. I could see it breaking if Trevor Lawrence is back, but it could be very ugly. The odds are pushing it that way. So it's really hard to trust anybody in your lineup. I know a lot of people are excited about Parker Washington right now. A lot of people are excited about some of these changes. But still, Travis Etienne, he's still dealing with that injury, but looks like he's going to be back from that rib issue and still playing. He did last week, so he's just taking some precautionary measures. And he's also getting a lot of touches, limited in practice. Calvin Ridley, because you're starting Calvin Ridley, unless you got some decent lineup decisions at wide receiver. Really depends on what stack you are. And then you got Zay Jones versus Parker Washington. I look for Zay Jones to be getting more snaps and getting more targets. Parker Washington being used in the slot. I look for both of them to get their opportunities. But we also got to see what the targets are going to be looking at the quarterback position, because as Trevor Lawrence is out, then it could be a big difference there. But for the run backs for the Browns, I trust Jerome Ford to an extent. I look for him to score enough to get you by and be okay. And plus, you're getting touches and opportunities, so you want to lean into that. But the production isn't guaranteed due to the matchup. Amari Cooper, Elijah Moore. Elijah Moore has been seeing the workload over Amari Cooper. He's been getting the target share. He's been getting the targets. You may want to lean into that. That's a sketchy lineup situation that you may not have to make. But if you're hurting and Moore's there on waivers, you may have to do so. He's getting over a 20% target share over his last 4 games. Amari Cooper has been on the downs. He's still a good talent. He's still a good route runner, but that quarterback situation's messy, and you do not trust these 2 wide receivers, but they're in situations where they could hit on any matchup still. Houston Texans at the New York Jets. This is going to be a huge litmus test for CJ Stroud going against this tough defense. Vegas is saying, hey, things are going to be stifled in this matchup with a 33.5 over under, a lower implied point total here, so a lower scoring output. That being said, Breece Hall is the safest player on the slate here because he's guaranteed to get manufactured touches. He's going to be using the passing game, getting 6.5 targets per game, runs a 4.3, has the speed and burst to house it. Garrett Wilson, because he's a stud wide receiver, and he is up and down some weeks, but you just got to pray for it and hope it rolls your way when he's on the field because he is getting those targets. Run backs, only feel good about Nico Collins. I know the targets are going to be there, and I know he's going to be getting air yards, and we're just going to hope for the best against his defense, but I think volume is going to at least allow him to be good enough to get you by. I don't think of him as a guaranteed start this week, but I also see him getting some volume and that allowing him to be propelled up a little bit. Seahawks at the 49ers, we got a 47 over-under, and guess what? We still got the same old troll job with Christian McCaffrey as the must start because people like to complain in the comments, so I got to deliver. But Brandon Ayuk and Deebo Samuel has been hitting. They've been hitting pretty good. This is a passing defense you can throw on a little bit, especially during the start of the season. Has kind of wind down a little bit, but Brandon Ayuk was looking really good this year. Deebo Samuel starting to fire up. Both these wide receivers getting the shorter targets, but getting that yak. Ayuk's got some explosiveness, and we know about Deebo Samuel. Run backs, we know about it. DK Metcalf, Tyler Lockett, Jack Smith and Jigba, if you're feeling frisky. Charbonnet and Walker, watch your health. Looks like both of them are practicing to a limited capacity. I do not know what that means. I can only tell you what I read, and what I read is they're both practicing. They're both limited. Looks like they'll be sharing the workload to some capacity. One might be in, one might be out. Going to have to pay attention to the news. Vikings at the Raiders, 40 over under, so a lower implied point total. But we might be getting Justin Jefferson back. He's logged 2 full practices, maybe 3 by the time you watch this video, but he's more than likely back. So we're just going to plug him in because he's Justin Jefferson, should be getting all the targets. If I'm Dobbs, I'm looking at Jefferson's way. I'm just chucking it to him. We got Alexander Madison, Ty Chandler. We have a dichotomy there due to the touches. See what happens there. Jordan Addison as well, because the volume in this past game isn't as prevalent, but Jordan Addison is a hell of a talent, so you may be rolling with him nonetheless. Run backs. Devontae Adams, he's starting to hit now with the rookie quarterback. Josh Jacobs, because he gets those touches, one of the top running backs in the league when it comes to touches per game. Jacoby Myers starting to hit a little bit too with the new quarterback. We got to see what happens. I don't feel good about it, but again, you got to do what you got to do. Bills at the Chiefs, 48.5 over under. And this is your prime time matchup here for fantasy football. You're starting your Bills, you're starting your Chiefs. That's really all I need to say. But I guess we'll dig into this. Of course, Stephon Diggs, 8 targets a game, pushing on 25% target share. Gabe Davis is pushing about 6 targets per game in his last 3 games. He's also getting those air yards. They might be pushing it to him downfield. James Cook as well, because he's using the passing game and he's getting volume. Again, you're starting your Bills, you're starting your Chiefs. Khalil Shakur could be a sneaky option in this matchup as well, considering the Chiefs are pretty strong by not allowing wide receivers to score up or rack up fantasy points on them. That's something you want to pay attention to, so the ball could spread around a little bit. The run backs, Pacheco, Rashee Rice. When it comes to the wide receivers, you're not really trusting them. You're trusting Rice to a capacity, and not due to his talent, but due to the offense. However, he hit in the last 2 games. Last week, he had an 8 out of 1. They need to target him deeper downfield because his game says he can do that. He has good ball skills. I like the volume he's starting to get. I really want to see him get more targets downfield. But again, you're probably going to roll him out in this matchup to see what happens. Of course, Travis Kelce, I just don't have him listed. Broncos at the Chargers, 44 over under. So we got a moderate implied point total here. So it looks like we're going to be starting a lot of Broncos and Chargers per Vegas. But it really depends on what you want. Keenan Allen, because he gets spammed with targets. He gets a ton of them. 13.8 targets per game. So in some games, he's 14, 15, 16 targets at 35.9% target share. That is something you do not see every week. Is Austin Eckler dust? Is he done? Is he cashed out? Or is he going to heat up against some of these softer matchups? Is that going to happen? Let me hear it in the comments below. I want to hear your thoughts on that. Run backs. Cortland Sutton. Maybe Jerry Jeudy. He has not been cashing this year, but you may want to because of what decisions you got to make with your lineup with the wide receivers you have. Javonte Williams, you can run on the Chargers a little bit. Look for fantasy scoring to take place in this matchup. That's about the only take I got here. Eagles at the Cowboys, 51.5 over under. And this game should be fireworks. And this is another matchup you're creating lineups around. Dallas should be throwing on Philly, and that should spark up Philly. Should be a fun one to watch, and you're going to be talking about a lot on Monday here. Last 4 games, CeeDee Lamb getting 12.4 targets a game and a 31.4% target share, and he's been going nuts. As of late, we all know this. That's the story. Tony Pollard should be getting volume. He's a lottery ticket every week. We can say that now. He's getting volume, could score a touchdown, could get you something, also could dud out because we've seen that earlier in the season. Brandon Cooks has been rolling hot, so in a matchup like this where it's favorable for the passing game, look for him to do something. He's a sneaky start in this matchup. If you're playing around with lineups, run backs, your usual suspects for the Eagles, A.J. Brown, Devonta Smith, DeAndre Swift, whoever you usually start for the Eagles, that's who you're rolling out there. Pretty much anybody who's running a lot of routes, seeing a lot of snaps, getting touches, you want them in your lineups to some capacity in fantasy football. Titans at the Dolphins. We see the Dolphins every week, and we're like, start your Dolphins. We're starting them. 46.5 over under. Moderate implied point total because things could be a little bit slow with the Titans here. But the Dolphins should be able to push the game script like they do in almost every game. That being said, they should be able to elevate the production for the Titans. Hopefully that goes our way. DeAndre Hopkins. He gets air yards, he gets deep targets, and hopefully that happens. 120 air yards per game in his last 4 games, 7.5 targets per game. And against the Dolphins, I get it, the secondary is kind of tight, but it's the game script. If the game script is being pushed like it usually does with the Dolphins, that could allow him to hit in production, at least allow him to hit double-digit PPR fantasy points. And granted, if the defensive backfield for the Dolphins wasn't as tight, then those numbers will be supremely elevated. But the game script for the Dolphins can usually push the projection totals for these wide receivers because they got to play catch-up. They got to play the pace of the Dolphins. They're a faster-paced team, and that usually changes things for the offense. Will Levis loves to sling it deep. Hopefully, the coaching staff doesn't try to corral him. Also, Derrick Henry, because there's just going to be more opportunities for these running backs in this game. Tajay Spears as well. Maybe Derrick Henry gets his workload lightened a little bit. I don't foresee it. They're probably going to run him to the ground no matter what. Run backs, Tyreek Hill, Jalen Waddle, Achane, Mostert. Your Dolphins. You're starting your Dolphins. No questions asked. Packers at the Giants, 36.5 over under. Lower scoring implied point total. I could see how it breaks, though, but the Packers are on the road, so I could see Vegas being kind of sticky with this. But how can this game break? If Tommy Toughnuts starts slinging the rock around, start getting accurate a little bit, Saquon breaks off some runs, or if Love goes off, however, Saquon Barkley, easy start in this matchup because he's getting 15 touches per game. You're starting Saquon. You're never really benching him anyways. Run backs, the 3 amigos here for the Packers, Jaden Reed, Dobbs, Christian Watson. Watch out for Aaron Jones. He's limited in practice. That could muddy the waters at the running back position. But again, remember what I say about these wide receivers. They like to take their turns. Jaden Reed has been like the hottest one, with Dobbs being fairly consistent. And then Christian Watson has been streaky, but he can go to the moon and he can deliver nothing. But again, he's got upside for days. But those are 14 must-start players along with a bunch of other players that are tagged along with these matchups. Do not forget to drop your start-sit questions in the comment box below. Make sure you hit that subscribe button on the way out. I want to thank you for watching. Catch you on the next video.